Don Quixote. Getting ready for adventures. Many years ago, there lived in Spain a very old-fashioned gentleman whom you would have been glad to know. This gentleman had so many odd ways and did so many strange things that he not only amused his neighbors and distressed his friends, but made himself famous throughout the world. What his real name was, no one outside of his village seemed to know. Some said it was this, some said it was that, but his neighbors called him the good Mr. Quixote, and no doubt this was correct. He was gentle and kind and very brave, and all who knew him loved him. He had neither wife nor child. He lived with his niece in his own farmhouse, close by a quiet little village in the province of La Mancha. His niece was not yet 20 years of age, so the house was kept and managed by an old servant woman who was more wrinkled than wise and more talkative than handsome. A poor man who lived in a cottage nearby was employed to do the work on the farm, and he did so well that the master had much leisure time and was troubled but little with the cares of business. Mr. Quixote was rather odd in his appearance and dress, as all old-fashioned gentlemen are apt to be. He was more than 50 years of age, and quite tall and slender. His face was thin, his nose was long, his hair was turning grey. He dressed very plainly. On weekdays, he wore a coarse blouse and blue trousers of homespun stuff. On Sundays, however, he put on a plush coat and short velvet breeches and soft slippers with silver buckles. In the hallway of his old-fashioned house, a short, rusty sword was always hanging, and leaning against the wall were a rusty lance and a big rawhide shield. These weapons had belonged to his great-grandfather long ago, when men knew but little about guns and gunpowder. On the kitchen doorstep, an old greyhound was always lying. This dog was very lean and slender, and his hunting days had long been past. But all old-fashioned gentlemen kept greyhounds in those days. In the barn there was a horse, as old and as lean as the greyhound. But of this horse I will tell you much more in the course of my story. Like many other gentlemen, Mr. Quixote did not work much. He spent almost all his time in reading. He was seldom seen without a book in his hand. When the weather was fine, he would sit in his little library, or under the apple trees in his garden, and read all day. He often forgot to come to his meals. He was so wrapped up in his books that he forgot his horse, his dog, and even his niece. He forgot his friends. He forgot himself. Sometimes he sat up and read all night. Now, what kind of books do you suppose he read? He read no histories nor books of travel. He cared nothing for poetry or philosophy. His whole mind was given to stories of knights and their daring deeds. He read so many of these stories that he could not think of anything else. His head was full of knights and knightly deeds, of magic and witchcraft, of tournaments and battlefields. If he had read less, he would have been wiser, for much reading does not always improve the mind. At length, this old-fashioned gentleman said to himself, "Why should I always be a plain farmer and sit here at home? Why may I not become a famous knight?" The more he thought about this matter, the more he wished to be a hero, like those of whom he had read in his books. "Yes, I will be a knight," he said to himself. "My mind is fully made up. I will arm myself in a coat of mail. I will mount my noble steed. I will ride out into the world to seek adventures. No danger shall affright me. With my strong arm I will go forth to protect the weak and to befriend the friendless. Yes, I will be a knight, and I will fight against error wherever I find it." So he began at once.